All right, let's talk about listing appointments. We're gonna do a mock listing appointment. I will be, after our conversation here, I will send everyone an email with the information that I am sharing. I'm taking a lot of this information directly from Bold, and please keep that between us because the Bold people want you to pay for Bold. I'm gonna hook you all up, okay? I do want to say this though, and I want to preface this. Everyone is different. You're all gonna have your own unique style. What works for me, let me be very clear, is not gonna work for everyone. We're all at different phases of our careers. So what I go over here, you can mold and fashion into your own. But what I will also say is this listing appointment that I'm about to go through is bona fide by the top talent that there's ever been in real estate. The person who created Bold, her name was Diane Kokoska. On listing appointments, her whatever you say, agreement rate was 98.9%, meaning she only did not get listings that she ended up not wanting. And what I mean by didn't want the listing is probably the person wouldn't come down on their price, or they wanted to ask for a deal, something like that. So this listing appointment is it's legit. If you're gonna form or fashion it into your own, it better be darn good. So let's talk about like the timeline or like bullet point benchmarks of a listing appointment. So the first step in a listing appointment is to schedule it. So let's say Michael was doing his weekly contacts, and lo and behold, he ran across Mr. John Smith, who just so happens to be interested in listing his home. So Michael, because he is an aggressive realtor who wants the best for his business, he asked for the business. He said, well, Mr. John Smith, would it be good if I came by next Monday at 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock? I've got a window in those times, and we can talk about what listing your home looks like. And Mr. John Smith, being impressed by Mr. Michael's gumption and aggressiveness, says, let's go for 5 o'clock on Monday. Cool. What you just did was you set an appointment. That's the goal of us all, right? We want to get in front of people that have the ability to make a decision to do business with us. So step one is always setting an appointment. Who knows? The first one might be, you might be lucky and you might have a family member that says, hey, I'm really looking to list my house and I know you just got your license. Would you mind talking with me? Some of us get lucky that way, and some of us have to grind for a few months before we get that first appointment. The more contacts you make, I promise, the better likelihood is that that opportunity happens sooner than later. When I set the appointment, I always try to establish the expectation with the potential client. The expectation is, hey, John Smith, here's what that appointment's going to look like. I'm going to show up at 5 o'clock. I'll likely be a couple minutes early because that's my style. I never want to be late. When I arrive, I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of your house, and then we're going to sit down and talk about the process and what goes into it and what you can expect from myself. I'll also allow you to ask some questions so that you have clarity. And by the end of that appointment, we'll probably be doing business together, and I look forward to that. So what you're doing there is you're establishing an expectation. You're also establishing that you're going to provide value during that conversation, because who wouldn't want to learn the process? Because for most sellers, it's been a long time since you sold. Dana, you're in the process of selling your house right now. How long had it been since you bought a house?
12 years.
12 years. In 12 years, does the industry change? Substantially. Substantially. We no longer do roundtable closings and stuff. That's something that your buyer or seller should know. Okay?
And we need to warn our buyers that lending is
different.
crazy, especially post-COVID, because they are, not only are they asking for the normal documents for income, but they're gonna ask you again 2 weeks before closing, and then they're gonna ask you again 2 days before closing to provide documents. So your buyers need to be prepared to be under the microscope financially. And it's an incredible endeavor and stressful for buyers who aren't used to, you know, your loan processor calling you on a weekly basis saying, hey, are you still employed? Because this is what the loan processors are having to do because of all the furloughs and all of the unemployment that's gone on because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I had somebody that who's already approved, had everything done, we were ready to put an offer and think they rescinded his financing, and his there's no change to his job. He actually has a better job now. It's in the same company.
Right.
Has stayed with
Correct.
it.
All right, we got to go. So yes, there's new requirements, and COVID has thrown a wrench into everything in 2020, including our own lives. But being what it is, our job is to inform. And so that's a great call out from Dana. Okay, so we've established an appointment time. We've got it on our calendar. The nerves have started to set in because this might be the first or second one we've ever done. And oh man, I want to nail this thing, right? We've also established with the owner of the home, hey, here's what that meeting is going to look like. So that's step one. Step two is the lead up to your appointment. What do you think your mindset needs to be heading into that appointment? Anyone?
That you've got it. I mean, that's the way I do it is, yeah, I'm going to explain to this guy or girl what we're going to do, and we're going to do it, you know?
Yes, absolutely, Keith. 100% hit the nail on the head. Do you guys think that the most highly successful realtors out there in this country have any question when they walk into a house that they've got the listing or not? There is zero doubt. I'm not in the probably top 1% of realtors, and I have supreme confidence that every house that I go into, that listing's mine. It may not be a sure thing, but it's a mental thing that you guys, we got to click the dial. It's a competition. And if you already believe that you've got it, odds are you're going to get it. The universe rewards that sort of confidence. And when you think you've got it, you're going to do the hard work on the forefront to make sure that you go in prepared. I'm going to share my screen with y'all. We have gone over how to do a CMA before, so I'm not going to spend time doing that. But what I do want to share with you guys is some resources that you have to prepare for a great listing. Assuming my website opens up. Here we go. I'm going into Command. Why would I go into Command? What's in Command that can help me for a listing appointment? Does anybody know?
There's a real nice brochure in there that I actually used in the designs.
Yes.
Kind of a listing pamphlet or something.
Yeah. So we're going to go in here. This is design. So Tammy, this might be great. Just experimenting for you. Michael, same deal. Those of you who are brand new, let's play in Command. All I can encourage you to do is play until you have actual business to go in. Designs. Click on this. You'll see all your previous designs you've got. We're going to go into this little plus sign guy. On your computer, it should be the same. By the way, if you're using a Mac and you're having issues with, what do you call it, Safari or, yeah, Safari, go to download Chrome. I'm finding that KW Command works better on Chrome than it does Safari. It's very hit and miss on Safari. Little pro tip there. So go to plus. We're gonna go to print. We're looking for print media that we're gonna make here. Go to next. Look at all this stuff, all these resources here. These are designs that you don't have to come up with on your own. They've already been made for you. So here's one for postcards, flyers, large or standard postcards. We want to go to listings, listing presentation. There are two to choose from. I don't care which one you use. And this might not be popular, but I don't care if you use one at all. Whatever works for you. I'm gonna say what I should say here though, and that is that I would recommend one of these your first couple times you go in on a listing appointment. And once you get a feel for things, then call an audible. We're gonna say use on this guy here. So Keith, you've seen this. Dana, you've seen this. Anybody else seen this stuff? Casey has?
Yes.
Cool. You can make this completely your own. That's the beauty of this. So listing presentation template. I wouldn't go in with a printout that says listing presentation template. Okay. So please, for the love of God, edit this prior to using it and printing it out. How cool would it be, guys, if you were a little tech savvy here and you edited this listing presentation to your liking and you emailed this over to the potential client a day ahead of time? Would that make you look well prepared?
Mm-hmm.
Would that make you look tech savvy, which is what everyone wants these days? Everyone wants somebody who understands how to use technology. It's also going to stand you out in terms of being prepared. Like, if I'm going to hire somebody, I want to know that they are thinking about me and my welfare ahead of time and not just throwing something together last minute. So listing presentations template, what I would probably do is maybe put a photo of their house on the front cover here and maybe some snazzy verbiage, something like, listing presentation for John and Katie Smith, September 3rd, 2020. Where can you get a photo of that person's house?
MLS.
MLS if it's sold before, but should you take that photo off of the MLS?
Can you not? I don't
Is
know.
it property of somebody else?
Oh, good point.
Where is common knowledge information about a person's home? Dana
Where's
says the auditor's website.
Auditors?
Yep, go to the auditor's website. You can steal shamelessly from there.
Okay,
That's public information.
that's right.
All right. Let's see if I can get to the next page here. Next page, let me also start by saying when you're formulating this, how many pieces of paper do you think somebody's going to want to read?
Not a lot.
Now, I will say there are different personalities out there. An engineer, for instance, might be very interested in reading through 30 pages of numbers, but maybe not through words. A lawyer would like to see 60 pages of words. Maybe not, okay? But in all seriousness, know your personnel, know your clientele. You can't go wrong with a short listing presentation as long as it covers the main bullet points. The main bullet points in my eyes are, what are some comps? What does the process look like? And how am I going to help you? Okay, so this is just a guide. It can this would be a great cover photo, right? Like cover page. Compliments of, and then you put all your information down here. That looks sweet.
Yeah.
Just cut out those first 2 pages. Less is more. It's just like going in and Casey, you and I have had this conversation. Casey's self-admitted he likes to talk when he gets a little bit nervous or anxious, and I think we all do. We start to fill in the gaps of silence with word vomit. I am just as guilty, so don't think you're the only ones. What I've learned is embrace the silence, talk less, you'll sound smarter. I promise you that. And the same holds true for these listing presentations. If you were to go in there with 5 pages, that's going to probably be more impactful than if you walked in with 30 pages. So as you're making that, keep that in mind. Here's a snapshot of maybe their property. Maybe you put another picture of their house on here. Maybe this is like a Cliff's Notes of what's to come. I do like this. This is straight from Command, like the neighborhoods. Like you could actually pull up like their neighborhood and what's happening in their neighborhood. And you could create like a market snapshot. This shows that you are a tech savvy agent that has a pulse of the area in mind. We've not done this together. Maybe that's something we should do at the end of the month when it's group choice. Comparable properties. This is important. How many did they use? They used 4. This is a 1-pager. If I was to bring a CMA or a competitive market analysis, the one that we pulled off the MLS can be up to like 12 pages. It's way too much information. I like this right here because it's a quick picture of the home, a quick analysis of the characteristics in terms of bedrooms and bathrooms and square footage, just the high level numbers that anyone would be interested in. And then what it was listed for, what it was sold for, and how many days. If you can fit 4 homes like they did onto 1 page, who needs to see any more than that? Probably not me. My goal here, and this might be counter to what you've heard in the past, my goal walking into a house for the first time is not to walk away having told the person what their house is going to sell for. My goal walking through that home for the first time is to get a feel for how the home is finished, what kind of work needs to go into that home in order to get top dollar. And then I want to also know how much they still owe on that home so that I can create a net to seller form. You guys have heard me use that term before. A net to seller form is simply a snapshot of how much the seller can expect to make or net as they sell their home. And I normally do that with 3 different price points. Going into the house, this work that I'm doing ahead of time, I'm doing my homework and I'm going to know, especially after pulling these comps, what the general range could be that we could price their home. But I'm not going to leave there with a definitive, hey, we're going to list your home for $225 because that's what I say. Let me talk a little bit more about pricing. So, and I'll get through this here very quickly. Pricing can change. If I'm going to this listing presentation and they're not ready to list for another month, what good does it do me to say, hey, your home's going to sell at $225 when in a month 3 other homes could sell that would impact your comps? Comps are only good for the day that you go in there. And so if you make that very clear with the seller, then they won't be surprised when you don't walk out of there with a clearly defined price point. And they should appreciate that because you're going to be the agent that gives them an up-to-date snapshot of their pricing, and they know ahead of time that you're going to be very adaptable as you approach listing time. Okay, other stuff that goes on here. I love this slide right here, the process. You're going to educate them. So it walks you through, and we talked a little bit last week, I think it was, about the process from a selling standpoint, like what goes into the sale of a home. So first it starts by signing some documents, some legal documents that cover our butts, cover their butts, and make sure that this is all on the up and up. Next, we're gonna make sure that we get the house ready for listing. Then we're gonna get photos scheduled. After photos, we're gonna go live on the listing. Then we're gonna schedule things through showing time. You're gonna talk to them about what that showing process looks like in terms of the text messages they're gonna receive from showing time and how we wanna approve every single showing possible. And then come the actual physical showings, which they'll wanna be out of the house for. And then come the offers. What's the strategy going to look like in terms of offers? Are we just going to accept the first good one that comes across the table? Some people, that's absolutely the case. Some people want to get a little bit greedy and want to say that offer is good, but I'm going to hold out for more. And that's perfectly fine. Our job is to do whatever it is that the seller wants us to do and to provide good, solid feedback when requested, in our opinion. So what does the offer process look like? And just establishing what they can expect so that there's no surprises. And what you guys will find throughout this whole process of selling a home is that you're going to be asked questions that you weren't prepared for, and you're going to institute that into your next process to make sure that that question doesn't get asked again. My theory is this: if a seller or a buyer throughout the entire process asks me a question, I didn't do my job the best I could have. And I'm still learning, guys. There's questions that pop up now that didn't pop up a year ago due to COVID. And I wasn't prepared for those at the onset. And now I brace them. Hey, at closing, you're gonna have three more documents to sign. Or, hey, the weeks leading up to closing, don't be surprised if the lender calls your workplace 3 times. It might be a little overbearing, but that's just the market right now. So preparing them through this whole process is super important. And then lastly, the one thing that I would say is you're going to talk about how you're going to sell their house, your marketing plan. Your marketing plan might be different than mine. For me, it's a lot of Facebook, social media posts. When we were allowed to do door knocking, I would have a lot of extra flyers and I would go door knock the neighborhood. I would invite all the neighbors to an open house. That way the neighbors, just in case any of them were thinking about selling, they remember me and they have a paper trail to get back to me if they're interested in also selling. Making sure that there's a sign in the yard. Making sure that we've called the neighborhood as well, called around the neighborhood. So we're hitting folks from different angles, but you're making sure that you stand out versus the competition. So again, the 3 things that I anticipate are really successful sales pieces on a listing presentation is number 1, the process, number 2, comps, and number 3, how you're going to market their home. If you just went in with those 3 things on top of mind, you're going to be great. All right, we got 13 minutes left. That's good. This doesn't take very long. I'm going to be reading from a script because I want to make sure that I hit these points correctly. And again, this is directly from Bold, and I will be sharing this information with you, but keep that on the hush hush. So first thing, I'll tell you the way that I do this. I open up an app on my phone called Notes. You all have that app if you have an iPhone. And if you don't have an iPhone, I'm sure you have something similar on your phone. Before I walk up to the front door, on my Notes app, I write the address of the home and the homeowner's names. And then I sit in my car and I take notes on the curb appeal. Why would you take notes on the curb appeal of the home? Dana says it's the first thing everyone sees. Why? So what kind of notes would I write down?
Oh, painted.
If it needs painted, Casey says.
If there's peeling.
If there's
driveway doesn't look
peeling.
good, There's a lot of weeds.
Okay, so basically, if there's things that are catching my eye or your eyes that need to be fixed in order to get top dollar, right? In order to make the curb appeal the most exciting that it can possibly be. In some homes, it would take, thousands of dollars to make it right. And so you just want to make it as good as you can for an economic number. So I write those notes down. When I walk up to the door, it is always going to be early. You're never going to catch me being late to an appointment. This is your first impression in some circumstances with a person. So in your right mind, I know we're all realtors here and a lot of us are late to everything, okay? But when you're dealing with a person who could potentially give you, who knows, $10,000 in your pocket, you think you should show up on time? Absolutely. And in fact, show up early, at least a couple minutes. So the first line is, I walk up to the door, I knock, I ring the doorbell. And then this is very important as well. Don't stand right next to the door like a dog waiting to be let in, okay? When you knock on that door, take 2 steps back, give them some space. It will feel more inviting, okay? First impression, you don't want to be overbearing. So if you're up on their grill right when they open the door, that's a little overbearing. Take 2 steps back. The first line is, "Hello, Mr. or Mrs. Smith. I'm Josh with Keller Williams Realty, and we had an appointment at 5 o'clock, and it's 5 o'clock sharp. May I come in?" They're obviously going to say yes because they're anticipating you. "Thanks for inviting me over. I'm excited that you decided to list your house with me today." Now, that might catch them off guard because maybe they're going to be interviewing several different people. But you're being bold and you're dropping a subliminal hint with them. The verbiage that you're going to see on the material that I send you, you're going to see certain things in all caps. So when I said, "Thanks for inviting me over, I'm excited that you decided to list your house with me today." When you see those all caps, it means you want to emphasize those words more so than the rest of the words. You're doing that to subliminally, psychologically get in their heads and say, "This guy's already got the listing." Okay. Next step. You say, "Well, Mr. Smith, I would like to take a quick look through your house so I can see it from the eyes of a buyer, since you won't be here during the showings to buyers. Trust me, it won't take long. I've done this so many times, and I'll see everything a buyer will see. I'll take notes throughout, and then after you list your house with me, you can point out all the things in the house that make it special for you." Please notice, I did not invite them to walk through the house with me. This is important, and it's a little challenging with some sellers because they want to come with you and point out how they just spackled this hole in the wall, and "Oh, that's my mom's Oriental rug, and it's priceless to me." That doesn't all, none of that stuff matters because your goal as the realtor is to establish, hey, what are the buyers going to see? So your eyes don't want to be tainted by what they've done to the house. It all doesn't matter at the end of the day. Now, you're not going to come out and say that to the seller. You're just going to say, "Hey, if you don't mind, I would love to just take a couple minutes and walk the house by myself so that I can see it from a buyer's eyes, and I'll take notes throughout. And then when I'm done, we'll reconvene, and then you can tell me all the cool stuff that you've done at the house." Does that sound good? All right, so picking back up, I know that many agents have you take them through your house and have you explain everything. They see the house through your eyes instead of through the eyes of the buyer. Let me ask you, how long have you been working for, let's say, Honda? Are you faster doing your job than your first day on the job? Are you faster today doing your job than your first day on the job? You're just like me. I've been doing this so long, it only takes me a few minutes. You may follow me if you like, or you can fill out this seller survey so we can save you time tonight. Won't that be great? Now, some of this stuff can be omitted. Like I said, you guys don't have to use all this stuff. I normally just say, "Hey, I'd love to walk through the house by myself. I'll take notes, and then we'll reconvene, and you can tell me all the stuff you've done to the house." Normally, if they push back, that's when I go into this whole, "Well, hey, if you let me do this, I can be very, very quick and get you back onto watching TV tonight," whatever. So then we walk the house and we sit down at the kitchen table. I normally try to pick something that has a table setting because it's more professional than sitting on a couch and not knowing how to, do I lean back on the couch? Do I lean forward on the couch? It's a little bit more just professional. So you're done walking the house. You've got your notes. You put your notes on your phone. Why I put my notes on the phone instead of like on a piece of paper is because this is easy. A, I've wasted no paper that I'm going to misplace later. B, it's all on a digital file right here. And C, I can send this out immediately from my phone once I'm done. That's sweet, right? And it's the immediacy that provides shows that you're a professional. and shows that you can get things done really quickly. That stands out. And what I tell people is these notes, these will act as a checklist of things that if you want to make top dollar, you'll execute. And if you need my help with any of these things, I'm happy to jump in and assist if we need to track down a vendor, or in certain situations, I'm happy to come over myself and help you out. I have gone and replaced doors before at listings. I've tried landscaping before, and there's certain things that if I've got the time, sure, I'll go help you out. You're gonna pad my wallet? Absolutely. I wanna help you out. And I wanna provide an experience like no other agent can. Those things stand out. And just merely offering your services goes a real long way. People will say, oh no, I don't want you to do that. No, you don't have to pay for this. This is my house. I should take care of it. They will literally shove it back in your face, but they will really appreciate the fact that you offered. So we've sat down. Next piece, we're going to talk about some goals. So Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I have a great deal of respect for you and your investment of time. In fact, we only have 3 goals for our meeting today. We're going to review your motivation to sell this house now and agree on a price that will cause it to sell. Now she says agree on a price. I don't agree with that, but you guys can make this your own. We'll take a moment and I'll answer any questions you may have. We'll decide tonight whether you choose to work with me, and I'll decide if I choose to take your listing. And you might say, what the hell? Why would you decide if you want to take their listing? Well, if they Yep, I'll be up at 2 o'clock. Yep, thank you. If they say anything about that, you say, well, that doesn't happen a lot, but you may not choose to set a price that will help your house to sell, or you may choose me to pay for marketing that I know doesn't help you sell your house. I'll be honest, in a listing appointment, I never actually use this verbiage, but it's something good to have in your tool belt because it makes people know that you're serious about your business and your time matters just as much as theirs. So then we move on to 3 critical questions. You say, do you really want to sell your house? Are you willing to price your house to sell? And do you want me to sell your house for you? So the reason you're asking these questions is because you're trying to close them right then and there. Honestly, if after you've walked their house and you've gotten their prerogative on things and you've said, hey, here's how my notes app goes and stuff, you could probably close them right then and there. You can probably just say, hey, we can continue through this listing presentation, or we can just go ahead and sign the paperwork right now if you'd like. In a lot of situations, a lot of your first timers are going to be people that you already know anyways, and they'll be like, let's just sign the papers, let's get going. Especially once they know that you know your stuff. All right, so we've toured the home. We're going to try and close. We go through the process. So if they want to go through the process, then we whip out that the listing presentation and we go through it very professionally, but we don't dwell on any piece of paper too long. We just say, here's the process. And then you go over it at a high level. Don't go over every single word. You emailed it a day ahead of time, so they've had a chance to read through it. And B, nobody needs read to like you're in first grade. Go over things at a high level. Then as you're going over comps, this is trying to drive the point home that, hey, this home sold for $260. It had all the bells and whistles and was recently renovated. As I've walked through this house, it's mildly updated. There are some things that need to be updated for sure, and it may not quite meet the standard of this other home that just sold last week. So we want to keep that in mind. What you're doing is planting the seed for a realistic pricing strategy. And then after that, you end with, here's what I'm offering you. Here's my marketing strategy. So you're going to see in the stuff that I send you a whole bunch of other stuff. There's a lot of verbiage. You don't have to memorize this stuff. I would encourage you to read through it for sure. It ends with pricing the property. Like I said, I normally say, and we're going to end with this. I say, how much do you own the house? I want to know so that I can formulate a net to seller. And what I'll do is I'll email that over to you later tonight. I'm going to go directly home, run the numbers. Now that I've been in your house, I can formulate a pretty good estimate of what it'll sell for. I'll give you 3 prices that I think it'll sell for. And at the end, when you see the email, you'll have a good approximation of how much money you can expect to make. So in my notes app, I put that number down. Let's say they owe $50,000. I go home, I get on whatever title company's net to seller form works best for me. So whatever title company you like to use, if you've ever used one, go to their site and they have a net to seller form. If you need one, holler at me. Dawn, I know I've helped you do one through Title Connect net to
Yeah.
seller.
Yep.
Great piece of value. And yeah, the sellers really respect that, that you're putting the time in and you're getting it over to them that night. That's super important. And then lastly, so before I leave, I say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we've gone through all the material. You know exactly how I'm going to sell your house. You ready to sign this paperwork so you can put me to work? 99% of the time, they're going to be all over it. There are some objections they might have, such as, well, I've got some other appointments lined up. You can just simply say boldly and aggressively, well, if that's the only reason you're not going to sign tonight, I'd be happy to call those other agents right now and tell them that you decided to work with me. I'll be happy to do that for you. I whipped that out once and they laughed at me a little bit, but they appreciated my willingness to do that. So hopefully this has been helpful. I will send you guys over the material here so you have it for reference. Listing appointment needs to be, you've got to have the foresight to do your pre-work. You can't just go in there and wing it. I promise you, especially with your first few, do not wing it. You can create your own methodology after you nail down your first couple listings. But let's use the resources that we have through Command and through Bold and through each other to make sure that we're knocking these first ones out of the park. Cool? Appreciate y'all. Have a wonderful week. Holler at me if you need anything. I'll talk to y'all later.
Bye, guys.